Have you ever wondered what really happens to you when you fall asleep? Not just your body, not the biology, but you, the you that feels, that thinks, that remembers, that wonders. When you close your eyes and your body becomes still, where does your consciousness go? If your mind can conjure up entire worlds, emotional experiences, conversations, even fear or ecstasy, all while your physical form lies quietly in bed, what does that say about the nature of reality itself? You may have been told sleep is merely a physical necessity, a biological shutdown for recovery. But if that were true, why would your mind craft such complex experiences in the dark? Why do you wake from dreams with lingering emotions, sometimes joy, sometimes confusion, sometimes a deep sense of déjà vu or dread? Why does your sense of time vanish, your logic bend, and yet, somehow, your experiences feel incredibly real? Could it be that sleep is far more than rest? Could it be the moment your consciousness slips free and begins its nightly voyage through something deeper? Every single night, whether you're aware of it or not, you enter a profound state of transformation. It's not just your body that relaxes, your consciousness undergoes a shift so dramatic, it's as if you cross a threshold. You move from waking life, where everything is grounded in physical perception, into a space that defies time, logic, and the limits of the five senses. And here's the truth most never question: you do this effortlessly. No one teaches you how to dream. No one shows you how to lose track of time, how to float, fly, cry, or fall in love within a dream. Yet it all happens, every night, beyond the realm of the physical. You might think you're just unconscious during sleep. But ask yourself this: if you were truly unconscious, why would you be having experiences at all? Why would you remember being chased, or talking to someone who passed years ago, or walking through a house you've never seen before but somehow know intimately? These experiences don't come from nowhere. They come from you, from your consciousness operating in a state you barely understand. And that's the mystery no one talks about. While your physical eyes close, your inner vision opens. While your muscles shut down, your mind lights up in ways it never does during the day. You've probably had moments upon waking where you remember a dream so vivid, so emotionally charged, that it stays with you all day, or even all your life. Maybe it gave you clarity, maybe it terrified you. Maybe it showed you something you couldn't explain, and yet you knew it meant something. That knowing, that feeling of truth that often comes from dreams, is a clue. A clue that sleep is not a void. It is a portal. Each night, as you lie in your bed and your breath slows, your consciousness detaches itself from the heaviness of the material world, and when that happens, something sacred occurs. Your mind stops following the rigid structure of space and time. It slips through cracks in reality. It steps beyond the veil. And where it goes, most will never truly understand, because they've never been taught to ask. But now you're beginning to. There's a reason ancient cultures regarded dreams as divine messages. There's a reason mystics spent years mastering their sleep cycles, seeking lucid states and astral journeys. Because they understood something modern science often overlooks: your nighttime consciousness isn't just leftover noise in your brain, it's the gateway to a deeper dimension of you. Think about how many hours you spend sleeping across your lifetime. Decades, potentially. If sleep were just about recharging, why would evolution allow for such intense internal activity, especially during REM sleep, when your brain can be more active than when you're awake? Why would your mind create complex storylines, visitations from lost loved ones, impossible scenarios, and emotional transformations in a space where your physical senses are offline? Because your consciousness is not confined to your waking body. You are not just a brain in a skull. You are awareness, you are energy. And sleep is the sacred space where that energy flows freely without the constant noise of waking life. Every night, you return to a more fluid, less restricted version of yourself. You visit places that defy logic, feel emotions that go unexplained, and sometimes even wake with answers to questions you never consciously asked. And maybe you've felt it. Maybe you've woken up from a dream with a sudden realization, or a strange peace, or a sense of having just returned from somewhere important. You might not always remember where you've been, but the feeling is there, lingering like the smell of incense after a ritual. This is the mystery of sleep, not a shutting down, not a pause, but a doorway your soul walks through every night, and you are the traveler. As your eyes grow heavy and the outside world begins to blur, something subtle, yet extraordinary, starts to take place within you. You've felt it 1,000 times, but rarely do you stop to notice. That delicate line between being awake and being asleep, between awareness and surrender, is not just a moment of tiredness, it's a sacred crossing. One that quietly guides your consciousness away from the physical plane and into something far more fluid, far more mysterious. In those first few minutes, your body softens, your breath deepens, and your thoughts begin to dissolve. What once felt urgent starts to lose its grip. Deadlines, arguments, the identity you wear throughout the day, it all begins to fade, but you don't vanish. In fact, something more profound starts to emerge. As your outer world dims, your inner world begins to awaken. The transition from wakefulness to sleep isn't just a fading out, it's a tuning in. Neurologically, your brainwaves shift. You move from the fast, focused beta waves of daily life into slower alpha waves, the gentle rhythm of relaxation and daydreaming. Then you descend even deeper into theta, where your thoughts become fragmented and your sense of time begins to dissolve. This is the in-between space, a liminal zone. It's where reality bends and your inner senses start to sharpen. It's here that you might catch glimpses of images, sounds, or even messages that seem to come from nowhere. And yet, they feel personal, as if someone or something is trying to speak to you. You may have experienced this sensation, moments just before sleep when you see flashes of imagery, feel like you're falling, or hear voices that don't come from the external world. These aren't hallucinations, they are invitations. Invitations to notice that your consciousness is already beginning to unhook from the physical and step into the non-physical. You're not shutting down, you're tuning into something deeper, something timeless. This passage, so often overlooked, is rich with meaning. It's the threshold between dimensions. The veil is at its thinnest. And for a brief moment, you straddle both worlds, the world of form and the world of formlessness. Have you ever noticed how some of your most creative thoughts, your deepest intuitions, or your strangest encounters happen in that half-sleep state? That's no accident. It's because in this stage, your rational mind is losing its grip, and your deeper consciousness, your intuitive, boundless awareness, is rising to the surface. This is the moment your ego falls asleep, but you do not. The part of you that watches, that observes, that knows, it remains. But now it's no longer confined to the rules of gravity or the expectations of your daily life. The walls of your identity begin to fall away. You are no longer just your name, your story, your personality. You are the silent presence slipping into a space where time doesn't tick and matter doesn't bind. You are returning to yourself. And what's most fascinating is that this shift happens every single night without effort. You don't have to chant, meditate, or take a journey to reach altered states. Your body is designed to guide you there naturally. Sleep is the ancient ritual your soul performs without you even realizing it. But just because it's natural doesn't mean it's ordinary. In fact, this nightly descent is the most overlooked spiritual doorway available to you. And what happens next, after this initial drift, is even more telling. As you enter the first stages of sleep, your brain begins to cycle through patterns. The neocortex, your logical mind, slowly dims. Meanwhile, deeper parts of your brain, the limbic system, the visual cortex, and regions associated with emotion and memory, begin to glow. You might assume your brain is going quiet, but in truth, it's lighting up in different ways. It's shifting into a different mode of perception. Your consciousness is preparing for something. It's gathering pieces from your waking life, memories, feelings, unresolved thoughts, and blending them with symbols and archetypes from your subconscious. What results is the dream state, but more importantly, what leads up to it is a rich, alchemical transformation. One where the surface-level noise of the day gives way to deeper wisdom, hidden truths, and sometimes even spiritual messages. This is where the clues begin to emerge, the first signs that your consciousness is more than a byproduct of your brain. Because if that were the case, if consciousness was just a machine winding down, why would you begin to feel more alive in your dreams? Why would entire landscapes appear? Why would emotions intensify? Why would you experience freedom from physical laws, or encounter beings you've never met, yet somehow know? Because you are entering a realm where your awareness is no longer limited by the five senses. You're entering the inner cosmos, the same one the mystics spoke of, the same one mapped by dream shamans and yogic sages for millennia. You are entering the space where your soul speaks more clearly than your voice ever could. And it all begins the moment you drift off. The moment you surrender to sleep is not a loss of control, it is a return to connection, to something ancient, something sacred, something that remembers who you really are, even when you've forgotten. So the next time your eyes begin to close and your breath slows, don't think of it as an ending, think of it as an entrance. Because what lies ahead is not unconsciousness, it's unfiltered consciousness, finally free to rise. When you close your eyes and surrender to sleep, a deeper version of you awakens, one that's been waiting silently in the background all day, your subconscious. It doesn't speak in words or logic. It doesn't argue or explain. It speaks in symbols, sensations, metaphors, and moods. It whispers in a language far more ancient than speech, and its most powerful tool of expression, your dreams. Every night, your subconscious takes the stage and becomes the playwright, the actor, and the scenery. It tells you stories not just to entertain you, but to reveal truths about yourself that your waking mind isn't ready to face. Your dreams are never random. Even the strangest, most fragmented ones carry meaning, layers of it. The moment you drift into the inner theater of your mind, your subconscious begins assembling a mosaic of images and emotions. It might pull in a memory from earlier that day, a fear you've been avoiding, or a longing buried deep in your heart, and it will shape these pieces into something that speaks directly to your inner truth. But it doesn't use direct language. It uses symbolism, because symbols bypass resistance. They pierce through your conscious defenses and go straight to the soul. Maybe you dream of losing your teeth, and you wake up thinking it was strange, but your subconscious might be telling you about your fear of powerlessness, or your anxiety about how others perceive you. Maybe you find yourself in an endless hallway, searching for something you can't find. That might reflect your real-life feeling of being stuck in pursuit of a goal with no clear direction. Or perhaps you fly effortlessly over a glowing landscape. That could be your subconscious signaling a newfound freedom, or a spiritual expansion you've recently tapped into. The key is not to take the dream literally, but to feel into its emotional truth. You might wonder how your subconscious knows what to show you, but it's been watching, always. It records everything, every glance, every word, every feeling you bury under a smile. Your conscious mind filters, but your subconscious absorbs. It remembers what you choose to forget, and at night, when your conscious mind steps aside, your subconscious gets its moment. It steps into the light, not to confuse you, but to bring balance, to help you process what you've ignored, to guide you back into alignment with your inner self. That's why dreams often bring up things you didn't realize were still lingering. Old wounds, forgotten joys, suppressed desires. Your subconscious isn't interested in time. It stores your experiences like books on a shelf, waiting for the right moment to hand you a chapter to reread. And when the time is right, it will bring that memory into a dream, not always as it happened, but as it felt. Because feelings are the language of the subconscious. Some dreams are gentle nudges, others feel like storms, raw, emotional, overwhelming. But all of them carry messages. The dream where you're running but can't move? That might be how you feel in waking life, trapped in circumstances you don't know how to escape. The recurring nightmare about drowning? It could be your mind processing deep emotional overwhelm you haven't addressed. Even the dream that feels meaningless, the one where you're brushing your teeth while the sky turns green, might hold meaning when viewed through the lens of metaphor and feeling. When you start paying attention to your dreams, something powerful happens. Your subconscious begins to trust that you're listening, and as with any relationship, the more you listen, the more it speaks. You'll find your dreams becoming clearer, more vivid, even more helpful. You may begin to notice patterns or recurring symbols. You might even start receiving guidance, answers to questions you didn't ask with words, but carried in your heart. Your subconscious is not a separate part of you. It is you, the deeper you, the part that sees what your eyes don't, the part that feels what your surface mind pushes aside, and it wants to help. It wants to integrate the parts of you that feel scattered or hidden, and during sleep it gets to work doing just that. You can think of dreams as emotional sorting, energetic alignment, soul conversations. They take what's buried in your inner world and lift it up into view, not to scare you, but to free you. Because when you understand what your subconscious is trying to tell you, you reclaim power. You stop running from what's inside you. You begin to work with it. And this is where deep healing begins. This is why dream interpretation, when done intuitively and personally, is such a powerful spiritual practice. Not by looking up fixed meanings in a dream dictionary, but by asking yourself, what did this dream feel like? What part of me is trying to speak? What truth am I being shown that I haven't been willing to see? When you ask those questions, you engage with your subconscious on its own terms. You allow it to guide you, gently, lovingly, toward wholeness. And something else happens too. As you listen more deeply to your subconscious during sleep, you begin to hear it during the day. You start to recognize when a reaction isn't just about the moment, it's about something older. You start to sense the deeper layers beneath your thoughts. Your intuition sharpens, your awareness expands. Because the bridge between your waking self and your dreaming self grows stronger, and when that bridge is open, life begins to change. So tonight, when your head touches the pillow, remember, you're not just going to sleep, you're entering a sacred space, a playground for your subconscious, a temple of inner symbols and spiritual messages, a realm where your soul reveals itself in the language of dreams. And when you awaken, if you listen carefully, you might find that your dreams left behind more than memories. They left you a map, one that leads not out into the world, but back into the truth of who you really are. There's a moment, subtle and fleeting, where you feel yourself hovering between two realities. Your body is still anchored to your bed, yet something in you feels lighter, as though a part of you is lifting, drifting, unshackled by weight or walls. You might have felt this before. A sudden sensation of floating, a gentle buzzing in your ears, a sense that you're no longer in your body, even though you can still perceive everything. This isn't just imagination. What you're experiencing may be one of the most profound spiritual phenomena available to the human mind, astral projection. For centuries, ancient cultures have spoken about the soul's ability to travel beyond the body. Egyptian priests documented techniques for separating the ka, the spirit double, from the physical form. The Vedic traditions of India detailed yogic practices for conscious travel through subtle realms. Tibetan monks trained for decades to master dream yoga, allowing them to remain awake and aware as their consciousness explored other planes during sleep. Even indigenous shamans have long described the act of leaving the body and journeying through realms of spirits, ancestors, and higher truths. All of these traditions point toward a singular, awe-inspiring truth. Your consciousness is not confined to your physical form. Modern language may call it astral projection or out-of-body experience, OBE, but the core idea remains unchanged. It's the experience of being aware, fully, lucidly aware, while not being tethered to your physical shell. Some describe it as floating above their bed, looking down at their sleeping body. Others feel themselves passing through walls, flying effortlessly, or entering landscapes that defy the laws of physics. These experiences are not just dreams. They carry a vividness, a lucidity, a presence that makes them unforgettable. And for those who've had them, there's no question that something real took place, something more than just an active imagination. You may wonder, how can consciousness leave the body? Isn't awareness generated by the brain? That's the story we're often told. But astral projection challenges that narrative in the most personal and direct way. When you find yourself seeing from outside your body, while your brain remains asleep, you begin to question everything. Could it be that consciousness isn't created by the brain, but rather flows through it? Like a signal through a radio? And in sleep, especially in deep dream states, perhaps that signal isn't confined anymore. Perhaps it expands, stretches, or detaches entirely. Many people experience spontaneous OBEs during sleep, especially in the moments just before waking or falling asleep, states known as hypnagogic and hypnopompic. These are liminal thresholds, where the veil is thin and your awareness slips through naturally. Some report feeling a sudden jolt or snap back into their body after realizing they were floating. Others recount journeys through tunnels of light, encounters with guides, or visits to places they've never seen, yet feel inexplicably familiar. And while these experiences might be brushed off as dreams by some, the people who live them speak of their clarity, their detail, and most of all, their truth. Consider a story shared by someone who had never studied astral travel, never heard of the term. One night, after falling asleep with a heavy heart, she found herself in a luminous space, not quite the world she knew, but far more peaceful. She met someone there, a radiant presence who spoke no words but filled her with unconditional love. The next morning, she woke up in tears, overwhelmed not by fear, but by a sense of having returned from somewhere sacred. She couldn't explain it, but she no longer feared death. She no longer felt alone. Her experience didn't come from theory, it came from direct perception. These are not isolated stories. They span cultures, ages, and belief systems. And while science may not have tools to measure them, the consistency and depth of these accounts speak volumes. Because people don't just report sights, they describe transformations. OBEs often lead to a deep sense of peace, a loss of fear, and an inner knowing that we are not our bodies, we are the consciousness that moves through them. But how does it happen? Why would consciousness, which seems so entangled with the body during the day, suddenly become unbound at night? One theory suggests that during REM sleep, as your brain waves slow and your sensory input drops, your consciousness becomes untethered. The body is in paralysis to protect you from acting out dreams, but your mind is fully alive, navigating internal and possibly external planes. This neurological disconnect may be the window through which astral projection naturally emerges. Another theory, rooted in spiritual teachings, says that your soul is never truly bound. Every night, as your body sleeps, your spirit journeys, often without your awareness. Astral projection, then, is not a rare event. It's simply the moment you become aware of what has always been happening. There are even practices to help facilitate this awareness. Deep meditation, breathwork, binaural frequencies, and intention setting can all increase the likelihood of a conscious OBE. But in truth, you don't need elaborate rituals. What you need most is openness, the willingness to believe that you are more than flesh, that you are energy, and that your energy is free to explore, to learn, to remember. Astral projection isn't about escape. It's not about fleeing your life or bypassing your struggles. It's about expansion. It's about seeing yourself as more than a person with problems, more than a body with boundaries. It's about remembering that you are a soul with wings. That there are places you can go, lessons you can receive, and truths you can embody, if you are willing to let go of the idea that you are only what you can touch. So tonight, if you feel yourself floating, if you sense a shift, or hear a vibration, or feel a sudden stillness, don't panic, don't resist. Trust that you are safe. Trust that something deep within you is awakening. And know this: your body may rest in one world, but your spirit is capable of flying through many. You are not confined, you are not limited. You are not dreaming, you are discovering. You're lying in bed, somewhere between dreaming and waking, and suddenly, you're frozen, you can't move, you can't speak. Your eyes may be open or closed, but your awareness is sharp, uncomfortably awake. And then, it happens. A heavy presence enters the room. You feel it before you see it. Sometimes it sits on your chest, sometimes it hovers in the corner, a shadow darker than the dark. You try to scream, to breathe, to fight, but your body does nothing. Time stretches. Panic swells. And just as suddenly as it began, it stops. You jolt awake, heart racing, lungs gasping, mind spinning. It's called sleep paralysis, but for many, It feels like something more than a glitch in the brain. It feels like an encounter, a confrontation, a spiritual threshold. Most people who experience sleep paralysis have no warning. They drift into sleep or begin to wake, only to find themselves trapped, conscious within an unresponsive body. Neurologically, it's explained as a misalignment between brain and body. Your mind becomes aware while your muscles remain under the natural paralysis that prevents you from acting out your dreams. Science tells you this is normal, harmless, a rare hiccup in your sleep cycle. But if you've lived through it, you know that the terror feels anything but ordinary. And more importantly, the presence feels real. Across cultures and centuries, people have described eerily similar encounters. Ancient Persians spoke of a demonic figure sitting on their chest. The Japanese called it kanashibari, a spirit binding. In medieval Europe, it was the incubus or succubus, entities that came in the night to drain one's energy. Even in modern times, the stories remain chillingly alike. A dark figure, a sense of malevolence, the feeling of being watched or invaded. How is it that people from vastly different cultures, across oceans and timelines, all report nearly identical experiences? Could it be more than just a coincidence? Some believe sleep paralysis is not a malfunction, but a moment of heightened sensitivity, when the veil between dimensions becomes thin and your awareness is briefly caught between two worlds. In this in-between space, your physical senses are dimmed, but your spiritual perception is sharpened. You are not fully in your body, yet not fully out of it. You're suspended. And in that liminal state, you might be perceiving things your waking mind usually cannot: entities, energies, archetypes, even aspects of your own subconscious taking shape before your inner eye. What if the shadowy figure isn't just a hallucination, but a symbolic manifestation of your fear, a form given to the unknown so you can confront it? Carl Jung might have called it the shadow, the parts of you you've repressed, neglected, or feared, taking form so they can be seen and integrated. Others argue that these beings are external, real consciousnesses that exist in another frequency, often unnoticed, but perceptible when your awareness is no longer tethered to the physical. In both cases, one thing becomes clear: sleep paralysis may be a spiritual encounter disguised as a sleep disorder. Many who experience sleep paralysis describe not just fear, but a profound intensity, a knowing that something significant is happening. Some feel they are being pulled out of their body, or that they're on the edge of an astral projection. Others hear voices, feel vibrations, or sense a strange energy moving through them. These sensations don't feel random, they feel deliberate, charged, as though something is trying to communicate or awaken. In this way, sleep paralysis may not be an error in your system, it may be a signal, a spiritual alarm clock going off. You are being shaken awake, not into the world, but into awareness. Because in these terrifying moments, you are forced to face your deepest fears without distraction. You are completely vulnerable, and in that raw vulnerability, you meet yourself, or something greater. Whether you interpret the experience as a personal shadow, a spiritual entity, or a threshold to the astral, you are being confronted with a truth: that your consciousness is not confined to your body, and your body is not in control of your awareness. This realization, while frightening at first, can become liberating. Those who learn to navigate sleep paralysis often report transformative shifts. The moment they stop fighting the paralysis and begin observing it, the experience changes, the fear subsides, the presence weakens. Some even use sleep paralysis as a launching pad for conscious astral travel, recognizing it as the perfect state for shifting into the out-of-body experience. They begin to see it not as an attack, but as an initiation, a rite of passage into expanded perception. It's worth considering why such an experience is accompanied by fear in the first place. Why would something so potentially enlightening feel so terrifying? The answer may lie in your conditioning. You've been taught that the body is your boundary, that to lose control is to be in danger, that darkness is to be feared. So, when you encounter an experience that violates all these beliefs, your mind panics. But what if the fear is simply the mind's resistance to what it doesn't understand? What if that fear is a guardian, one you must move through in order to access the deeper truth on the other side? In mystical traditions, fear is often the threshold, the dragon guarding the treasure, the storm before the calm, and sleep paralysis, for many, feels like exactly that. A dark, overwhelming force that, once faced, opens a door. Because when you realize that the fear cannot harm you, when you stop resisting and begin witnessing, something opens inside you. You begin to reclaim power not from the body, but from the awareness that transcends the body. Imagine seeing sleep paralysis not as a nightmare, but as an invitation to explore, to question, to step beyond the surface of what you've been told is real. It challenges you to confront fear, to surrender to stillness, and to recognize that even in moments of complete paralysis, you are not powerless, because you are more than your body, more than your thoughts. You are the observer, and the observer cannot be bound. The more you integrate this truth, the less terrifying sleep paralysis becomes. Instead of dread, you begin to feel curiosity. Instead of panic, you cultivate presence. You prepare yourself, not to escape, but to enter the experience with clarity. Some who have trained themselves in this way describe entering the state on purpose, riding the paralysis into lucid dreams or astral projections. They use it as a portal, not a prison. And they return from those journeys with insights, healing, and a sense of empowerment that no waking experience could offer. So if you ever find yourself in that frozen space again, breathe into the fear, not to fight it, but to understand it. Let the presence come, let the stillness deepen, trust that you are safe. And know that what you're experiencing may not be a malfunction at all, it may be a moment of profound awakening, because within the terror, there is truth, within the paralysis, there is potential. And within you, even in your most helpless moments, there is a consciousness that cannot be touched. It only needs to be remembered. There's a moment, subtle but unmistakable, when something shifts inside a dream. You're running through a forest or walking through a familiar house, and suddenly, you realize it. This is a dream. In that instant, something extraordinary happens. You're no longer a passive observer being pulled through a random narrative. You're awake, within the dream, aware, present. And for the first time, you realize you have power. You can choose. You can change the scenery. You can fly. You can ask questions, summon answers, or simply stand in awe at the sheer vividness of the experience. This is lucid dreaming, and it is one of the most direct and powerful proofs that your consciousness remains active even when your physical body is at rest. Most people move through their dreams unaware, like actors following a script they didn't write. But lucid dreaming tears down that fourth wall. It shows you that your awareness doesn't vanish when you sleep, it simply shifts forms. It becomes immersed in another realm, one built from the material of your thoughts, emotions, memories, and deeper spiritual layers. And the moment you become lucid, you realize something profound. You're not just in the dream, you are creating it, not with effort, but with the quiet intention that lives behind your thoughts. You're both the painter and the painting. And that realization changes everything. Lucid dreaming is not just a curiosity or a psychological quirk, it's a gateway, a training ground for the soul. Because when you become conscious in the dream, you begin to understand the nature of consciousness itself. You begin to see how reality, whether waking or dreaming, is molded by belief, by focus, by expectation. The dream becomes a mirror, showing you not only what you fear or desire, but how your energy shapes your experience, and what you learn there can radically shift how you live when you're awake. But how do you reach that state? How do you learn to wake up inside your dreams, to break free from the automatic flow and step into conscious co-creation? It begins with intention. You have to want to wake up. You have to plant the seed in your subconscious before sleep, reminding yourself, "Tonight, I will recognize that I am dreaming." This simple statement, repeated with sincerity, begins to train your mind to question its reality even within the dream state. Because the only real difference between a regular dream and a lucid one is the presence of awareness. And awareness grows through practice. One powerful technique is reality checking. Throughout the day, pause and ask yourself, "Am I dreaming?" Look around, notice the details. Try pushing your finger through your palm. Look at text, then look again to see if it changes. The point isn't to catch yourself dreaming during the day, it's to make the habit so automatic that it carries into your dreams. Because when you start asking that question inside a dream, the illusion cracks. You remember, and that remembrance brings power. Another pathway is dream journaling. Each morning, as soon as you wake, write down everything you can remember, even fragments, even feelings. Over time, you'll start to notice patterns, symbols, places, recurring characters. These patterns are your subconscious language. And by becoming familiar with them, you begin to spot them while dreaming. Recognizing a dream sign can instantly trigger lucidity. Suddenly, the person with three eyes or the endless staircase doesn't confuse you, it alerts you, it wakes you up inside the dream. Meditation also sharpens your awareness. The more present you are during the day, the more likely you are to carry that presence into the night. Lucid dreaming isn't just about controlling your dreams, it's about cultivating awareness that stretches beyond the physical. It's about remembering who you are, no matter the dimension. And once you're lucid, the possibilities expand. You can explore not just your subconscious, but what feels like other realms entirely. Many lucid dreamers report encounters with guides, teachers, or presences that offer wisdom and clarity. Others use lucid dreams to face fears, rehearse future events, or heal emotional wounds. Because within the dream, your mind is open, your defenses are down, healing happens quickly, and growth is accelerated. Imagine confronting a fear in a dream, standing calmly before a nightmare creature, realizing it cannot harm you. That moment of courage doesn't just affect your dream, it ripples into your waking life. You carry that empowerment with you. You begin to see that fear is just another illusion waiting to be dissolved by presence. Lucid dreaming becomes a laboratory for transformation, where you can test your limits, face your shadows, and remember your light. Some go even further. They use lucid dreams as springboards for astral travel, allowing the dream to dissolve while maintaining awareness as the consciousness shifts into deeper, non-physical realms. In this way, lucid dreaming becomes not an end, but a threshold, a doorway into even more expansive experiences of consciousness. And all of it begins with the simple act of becoming aware. But even if you never leave the dream realm, the experience of being conscious within it is a profound teacher. It reveals to you that reality is more fluid than you believed, that perception is creative, that your thoughts have power, and that awareness, your true self, is not bound by the body or the brain. It is the silent witness, the dreamer behind the dream, the eternal observer who cannot be lost, even in sleep. Lucid dreaming also deepens your relationship with your subconscious. It opens a direct line of communication. You can ask questions in a lucid dream and receive answers, sometimes in words, sometimes in symbols, sometimes in experiences that stay with you long after waking. You might ask, "What's holding me back?" and find yourself in a room from your childhood, or meet a version of yourself with wisdom in their eyes. The dream will respond, not always how you expect, but always in the way that reveals the truth you're ready to see. And perhaps most beautifully, lucid dreaming reconnects you to wonder, to play, to magic. In a world that often feels rigid, predictable, and limited, your dream world reminds you that you are still a creator, that you still hold the key to your imagination, that the boundaries you've accepted may not be as solid as you once thought. When you fly through a starlit sky, shapeshift into an animal, or speak with a loved one who has passed, you remember that reality can be more mystical than logical, and that realization changes you. So the next time you close your eyes, don't just fall asleep, prepare to awaken, set your intention, plant the seed. And when that moment comes, when you find yourself inside a dream and realize it, pause, breathe, feel the joy of being fully present in a world made of thought and energy. You are not dreaming randomly. You are dreaming with purpose, with clarity, with power, and in that space, you are free, not because the dream is fake, but because you are finally aware of your ability to shape it. This is the gift of lucid dreaming, the rediscovery of your creative essence, the merging of consciousness and imagination, the remembering that you are more than a body having dreams. You are awareness having experiences, and you can choose to wake up, even while you sleep. Have you ever woken from a dream, only to live out the exact scenario days or weeks later, down to the smallest detail? Maybe it was a conversation with someone you hadn't spoken to in years, or a strange place you'd never visited before, suddenly unfolding in waking life exactly as it appeared in your dream. For a fleeting moment, it feels like déjà vu, but deeper. You know you've seen this before, you felt it before it happened, and that realization shakes the very foundation of what you thought time was supposed to be. These are not coincidences. These are what many call precognitive dreams, visions of the future that come not from logic or planning, but from the vast, mysterious field of consciousness that exists beyond space and time. Stories of precognitive dreams have existed for thousands of years. They show up in sacred texts, personal diaries, ancient mythology, and modern scientific studies. Abraham Lincoln reportedly dreamt of his own death just days before his assassination. Mark Twain wrote of dreaming about the death of his brother, seeing the exact funeral scene before it occurred. In countless cases, everyday people have dreamed of plane crashes, natural disasters, or deeply personal moments that hadn't happened yet, but later unfolded exactly as seen. And though skeptics might dismiss these as selective memory or coincidence, anyone who's experienced a true precognitive dream knows the difference. It isn't vague, it isn't symbolic, it's precise. It carries a weight, a clarity, and a feeling that something is being shown to you, something real. So, how does it work? How is it possible that your mind, while at rest, can access information about events that haven't happened yet in your timeline? To answer that, you have to let go of one of the most deeply ingrained assumptions you've been taught. That time is linear. In waking life, time seems to move in a straight line, from past to present to future. But consciousness doesn't seem to obey those rules. In dreams, the past can blend into the present, and the future can bleed backward into now. There's no clock in the dream realm. Events don't happen in order. Everything exists at once. And in that timeless state, your awareness may touch moments that have not yet arrived in your physical reality, but already exist in the field of potential. Quantum physics supports this possibility in surprising ways. It tells us that all matter exists in a state of probability until observed, that particles can influence each other instantaneously across great distances. That time, at the quantum level, doesn't move in one direction. It's fluid, non-linear. And if consciousness is somehow connected to that quantum field, if your mind is more than just neurons firing in sequence, then it's not a stretch to believe that your awareness can travel, that it can tune into frequencies of the future just as easily as it recalls the past. When you sleep, the filters of your conscious mind fall away. The part of you that demands logic and structure goes quiet. And in that openness, your subconscious, your higher self, begins to speak. It doesn't speak in words, it speaks in knowing, in images, in emotional truths, and sometimes, in visions of what's to come. You may not understand them at first. Many precognitive dreams are cloaked in symbols or metaphors. A burning building might represent a relationship that's about to collapse. A flood might signal emotional overwhelm that hasn't arrived yet. But there are also those dreams that are startlingly literal. You see a moment exactly as it will happen, who's there, what's said, the colors, the weather, even the feeling in your chest. The question then becomes, why? Why are you being shown the future? Is it a warning? A gift, a glimpse meant to guide your choices? In many spiritual traditions, precognitive dreams are seen as opportunities for alignment. They're not about fate or inevitability. They're about preparation. Your consciousness is reaching ahead, gathering insight, and bringing it back to help you navigate. The dream is not saying, "This must happen." It's saying, "This could happen, pay attention." And in that attention, you gain power. You can shift your decisions, your energy, your intentions. You can respond with awareness instead of reaction. Some precognitive dreams are deeply personal, showing you events that matter only to you. A new job, the birth of a child, the return of someone you thought you'd lost. Others tap into collective timelines. People have reported dreaming of world events before they unfold. Earthquakes, terrorist attacks, political shifts. These dreams often come with a different energy, heavier, urgent. They don't always make sense at the time, but their accuracy is undeniable in hindsight, and they raise a profound possibility that consciousness is not just personal, it is also connected. That your awareness is part of a larger web of information, and in the dream state, you're tapping into that shared intelligence. Imagine that your future already exists, not as a fixed path, but as a field of possibilities. In waking life, you're moving through it, one choice at a time. But in your dreams, you step outside of that linear flow. You rise above it, like a bird seeing the landscape from above. You glimpse what lies ahead, not so you can control it, but so you can participate in it more consciously. The future becomes not something that happens to you, but something you are actively co-creating with the universe. And it's not just about events. Precognitive dreams can also show you who you are becoming. They reveal inner shifts before they manifest externally. You might dream of standing on a stage, even though you've never spoken in public. Weeks later, you're offered a leadership role you never expected. The dream was preparing you, planting a seed, helping you expand into the next version of yourself. These aren't just random flickers of imagination. They are messages from your own future, whispering back to your present self. Learning to work with precognitive dreams doesn't mean trying to control the future. It means becoming attuned to the subtle signals of your deeper mind. It means honoring the dreams that feel different, the ones that stay with you, that echo through your day, that stir something in your gut. It means writing them down, reflecting on them, trusting that your consciousness knows more than your intellect. And above all, it means surrendering to the mystery, not to be passive, but to be aware. You are not limited to this moment. You never were. Your consciousness is not bound by time. It flows through timelines like water through branches, touching future leaves before they've even grown. When you dream, you enter that flow. You glimpse what lies ahead, and in doing so, you remember something the waking world tries to make you forget: that you are vast, that you are connected, and that the future is not a wall, it is a mirror, one you're already learning how to see through. Every night, when your body lies still and your eyes close, something extraordinary begins. You leave this physical world, not in body, but in awareness. You enter a space untethered from time, gravity, or the familiar laws of reality. You drift into realms that feel both alien and intimate, where landscapes shift like thought, and beings appear with eyes that know more than they should. Some call it dreaming. But what if, at least sometimes, it's something more? What if your dreams aren't just internal hallucinations, but actual doorways into interdimensional realities, portals that your consciousness naturally accesses while your physical senses sleep? The idea that your dreams could take you beyond this dimension may sound fantastical, but it is anything but new. From ancient shamanic traditions to modern-day mystics, countless sources have spoken of the dream state as a realm of travel, not imaginary, but experiential. In indigenous lore, the dream world is a sacred place, a spirit realm as real as the waking one, where ancestors, guides, and other beings reside. Tibetan monks speak of bardos, intermediate states of consciousness where one can navigate different planes of existence. In the mystical texts of Sufism, dreams are seen as visits to parallel realities, where the soul temporarily detaches and communes with higher knowledge. Even ancient Egyptians believed that dreams were voyages the soul undertook each night, returning with messages from other worlds. If you've ever had a dream that felt too real, a place you've never seen but somehow knew, a being whose presence made your entire body vibrate with a frequency you couldn't describe, or a moment so profound it stayed with you for years, you've brushed against this truth. There are dreams, and then there are visits. In these dreams, you don't just feel like you're imagining, you feel like you're remembering. You wake up with an emotional residue, a kind of spiritual scent that lingers, reminding you that something meaningful happened, something you can't quite explain, but can't quite forget either. These dreams often include encounters with entities, conscious beings, who don't feel like figments of your imagination. Sometimes they speak in symbols, sometimes in silence, but always with a sense of knowing. These presences might offer guidance, pose riddles, or simply be emanating energy that shifts something inside you. You might not remember the specifics of the exchange, but the impact is unmistakable. They feel wiser, older, more evolved, and often, they don't just appear, they arrive. As if summoned by your vibration, your readiness, or something you carried with you from waking life. There are countless reports from people across the globe who have dreamt of being in other realities, places with different physics, unfamiliar architecture, or even entirely different versions of Earth. Some speak of bleed-through dreams, where they live a full life in a different timeline, only to wake up and realize they were somewhere else. Others speak of flying crafts, crystalline cities, floating temples, or celestial libraries, where light is knowledge and time is irrelevant. These places aren't bound by the limits of the physical mind. They are fluid, symbolic, but consistent in their mystery. What makes these experiences so compelling is not just their surreal nature, it's the deep, intuitive truth they seem to carry. You may ask, how can this be real? Can the mind truly visit other dimensions? To answer that, consider what science is beginning to suggest. Theoretical physics now entertains the idea of parallel universes, realms that exist alongside our own, vibrating at different frequencies or existing in alternate timelines. The multiverse theory posits that for every choice made, a new reality branches off. If your consciousness is not simply a byproduct of the brain but a field of energy, one that can expand, move, and perceive across dimensions, then it's entirely plausible that in states of deep dreaming, where the brain's filters shut down, you're no longer limited to this version of reality. The dream state, especially during deep REM and beyond, may act as a kind of vibrational corridor. Your physical senses are muted, your logical mind is subdued, and what's left is pure awareness, free to move without the weight of matter. This state allows you to tune into frequencies your waking self is usually blind to. Just like a radio dial shifting stations, your consciousness might align with alternate realities, picking up transmissions from realms where different rules apply. In these altered dream states, the geometry of space bends, time loops and folds. You might experience entire lifetimes in what feels like moments. You might meet beings who call you by a name you've never heard but feel intimately yours. You might find yourself in a classroom, receiving downloads of knowledge you didn't seek but desperately needed. These experiences may sound strange, but for those who have lived them, they are some of the most profound moments of their existence. There's also a growing number of documented cases where people have dreamt of events, technologies, or symbols that didn't yet exist, only to find them later in waking life. Some dreamers have accurately described breakthroughs in science, complex mathematical formulas, or medical insights they had no prior knowledge of. Others have awakened from dream encounters with blueprints, languages, or spiritual technologies far beyond their comprehension. If these dreams were simply mental noise, how could they carry information beyond the dreamer's knowledge? The answer may lie in interdimensional access. Your dreaming mind isn't limited to memory, it may be tapping into the Akashic field, the quantum field, the shared collective intelligence that exists across timelines and realities. So what does this mean for you? It means your dreams may not be just dreams. They may be glimpses into parallel versions of you, echoes of other lives, or meetings with beings who exist in frequencies your daytime mind can't yet perceive. It means that your consciousness is not local, it doesn't live inside your head, it lives in a field of awareness that spans dimensions, and sleep is the gateway. This also means that the boundaries you've accepted, between real and imagined, physical and non-physical, here and there, are far more fluid than you've been taught. It means that you can begin to engage with your dreams differently, not as nonsense, but as guidance, not as fiction, but as exploration. You can begin to ask questions before you sleep, to invite insight, to record what you experience, and over time, you may begin to see patterns, themes, messages, not just from your subconscious, but from other realms. You become a traveler, a dreamwalker, a conscious explorer of the unseen. And with that shift in awareness, something beautiful happens. You begin to feel less alone, less trapped in a world that often feels hard and limited. Because in your dreams, you remember that you are infinite, that you are connected, that beyond the veil of sleep, entire universes are waiting for you. Not to escape from this one, but to remind you who you really are, a multidimensional being with access to realms your waking mind can barely begin to grasp. And each night, you are invited to return. There is a reason every spiritual tradition on earth honors the night, not just as the absence of light, but as a sacred passage, a time when the outer world dims and the inner world stirs. When silence deepens and the veil between realms thins, sleep, in this light, is not merely a function of biology, it is a spiritual necessity, a ritual of return. A daily descent into stillness where the soul has a chance to repair, replenish, and realign with something deeper than the noise of waking life. While the world sleeps, your spirit breathes. And in that breath lies profound restoration. Ancient cultures understood this. Long before sleep was studied in laboratories, it was seen as a gateway to healing. In Egypt, sleep was ritualized in temples dedicated to dreams and inner journeys. Priests trained to interpret visions understood that during sleep, divine messages could be received, healing not just the body, but the soul. In Greece, seekers visited Asclepian temples, where they would sleep in sacred chambers, trusting that their ailments would be addressed in the dream realm. The understanding was simple yet powerful. Healing did not come solely from medicine, but from connection. And sleep was the space where that connection became possible. Your body knows how to heal, but that healing doesn't happen in chaos, it happens in surrender, in the deep, undisturbed rest that only sleep provides. When you enter the stages of non-REM sleep, your brain releases growth hormones, your tissues repair, and your immune system strengthens. But something more subtle is also occurring. Your emotional and energetic systems begin to rebalance. Every moment of your waking life, you are taking in energy, through thoughts, interactions, environments. Some of that energy is nourishing, some is draining, all of it must be processed. And if not processed during the day, it moves into the night, seeking release. That's why you often dream about situations that bothered you, or people you haven't consciously thought of in years. The subconscious, during sleep, is doing its work, unpacking, sorting, integrating. But even beyond the subconscious, something sacred is happening. Your spirit is recalibrating. You are not just storing memories or building neurons, you are purging heaviness. You are realigning with your core vibration. You are returning to center. Think of sleep as a spiritual detox. During the day, your energy field becomes clouded with stress, fear, and other people's emotional residue. But in sleep, especially deep sleep, your field clears. You enter a state of receptive neutrality. The layers of ego fall away, the masks come off. And what remains is your pure essence, untouched, unburdened, and wide open. It is in this openness that divine intelligence can touch you, not in words, but in frequencies. In the subtle currents of energy that flow into your being when your resistance dissolves. If you've ever gone to sleep anxious and woken up peaceful, without a change in circumstances, you've felt this. The healing didn't come from fixing a problem, it came from surrendering it. From allowing your higher self, your spiritual intelligence, to hold what your conscious mind could not. In this way, sleep becomes more than restoration, it becomes communion. A nightly meeting between your human self and your divine self. You've likely heard the phrase, sleep on it, when facing a tough decision. It's more than a metaphor. Sleep connects you to wisdom beyond rational thought. While your brain rests, your intuition sharpens. The noise quiets. Insight can rise. Ideas can surface, not because you're thinking harder, but because you're finally listening. Many great minds throughout history, Einstein, Edison, Tesla, spoke of receiving solutions in dreams or moments between sleep and waking. What they were accessing was not just imagination. It was a state of spiritual receptivity, a space where answers already exist, waiting to be received. Emotional healing also finds its sanctuary in sleep. Traumatic experiences, suppressed emotions, unspoken grief, they don't vanish just because you move on. They live in your energy body, subtly shaping your perceptions and reactions. Sleep allows these emotions to emerge safely, often through dreams. You may cry in a dream without understanding why. Or feel overwhelming joy. Or remember something long forgotten. This isn't random. This is your soul processing what your waking mind couldn't. In the dream state, you are safe to feel, safe to release, safe to let go of the burdens you didn't know you were carrying. And what about those mornings when you wake up with a clarity you didn't go to bed with? When something that felt impossible the night before suddenly feels manageable or even irrelevant? That's not coincidence. That's alignment. Sleep realigns you with your higher frequency. It recharges your spiritual battery. It reminds you, without words, of who you really are. That you are not your problems, not your past, not even your thoughts. You are awareness, light, essence, and sleep, in its most sacred form, is the nightly practice of returning to that truth. This is why sleep deprivation is so devastating, not just to the body, but to the soul. When you are chronically sleep deprived, you're not just tired, you're spiritually disconnected. You lose touch with your intuition. Your emotional regulation falters. Your resilience weakens. The world feels heavier, harsher. You begin to forget the feeling of being you. And this is more than just exhaustion. This is spiritual disorientation, a slow drift away from the inner compass that sleep helps recalibrate every night. So, creating sacred space around your sleep isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. Your bedroom becomes your temple, your bed becomes your altar. The act of lying down, breathing deeply, and releasing the day becomes a ritual. Light a candle, express gratitude, speak an intention into the silence, not to manipulate, but to harmonize. To signal to your body and your soul that you are ready to receive not just rest, but restoration, not just dreams, but direction. And when you rise in the morning, do so with reverence. You've just returned from a journey. You've been healed in ways you may not even realize yet. You've been renewed, not just physically, but energetically, emotionally, and spiritually. Carry that frequency into your day. Let your decisions flow from that clarity. Let your words emerge from that peace. Because the world doesn't just need more action, it needs more aligned action. And that alignment begins in the unseen hours, when your eyes are closed, and your spirit is wide open. Sleep is not an escape from life, it is where life restores itself to you, where the sacred whispers, where healing hums through your cells. Where your highest self tends to the wounds your waking self barely notices. It is not the absence of awareness, it is the return to it. And when you honor your sleep, you are honoring the soul's most ancient rhythm, the nightly descent into the mystery, and the daily resurrection into light. You don't just wake up in the morning, you rise. Whole, reborn, remembering, even if just for a moment, that you are made of more than bone and thought. You are spirit, resting in the arms of eternity, and awakening, again and again, into the miracle of being. Mastering your sleep is one of the most overlooked yet profound ways to accelerate your conscious growth. Every night, you are given a sacred opportunity to dissolve into the depths of your own being. To enter realms where your ego loosens its grip, your spirit expands, and your subconscious speaks in vivid symbols and silent truths. But in a world obsessed with waking achievements and relentless productivity, we've come to treat sleep like an inconvenience, something to be minimized, managed, or ignored. What we fail to realize is that sleep isn't just recovery, it is revelation. To use sleep as a tool for awakening, you must first reclaim it as sacred, not as an afterthought, but as an integral part of your spiritual practice. The quality of your sleep directly affects the quality of your consciousness. It determines how deeply you access your intuition, how gracefully you process emotions, and how connected you remain to your soul's guidance. The most powerful insights often arise not when you're actively seeking them, but when you're still, when your body rests, and your awareness moves inward. In this state, you become available to receive what waking noise drowns out. The first step toward spiritual sleep mastery is intention. Before you close your eyes, ask yourself, what am I giving myself to tonight? Are you collapsing into sleep from exhaustion and resistance? Or are you entering sleep as a ceremony, as a passage into another dimension of awareness? Your mindset shapes your experience. By setting an intention, whether it's to receive guidance, to heal, or to remember your dreams, you align your consciousness with a higher purpose. Sleep becomes not just a biological function, but a sacred dialogue with the universe. Your sleep environment plays a crucial role in this. You are energetically sensitive, even when unconscious. The energies surrounding you, clutter, electromagnetic fields, artificial light, all influence the subtle shifts of your inner world. A space charged with stress or distraction will follow you into your dreams, but a space consecrated with peace, simplicity, and intention will invite deeper rest and clearer access to inner realms. Make your bedroom a sanctuary. Remove what doesn't serve your calm. Introduce elements that remind you of stillness, soft lighting, natural textures, scents that soothe the nervous system. Each element becomes a silent invitation to the sacred. One of the most transformative practices you can adopt is the pre-sleep ritual. This doesn't have to be elaborate, it only has to be intentional. A few minutes of meditation, breathwork, journaling, or prayer can signal to your body and spirit that it's time to cross the threshold. In those quiet minutes before sleep, your brain begins to enter alpha and theta states, prime frequencies for intuition and healing. It is here that you plant seeds. You can ask a question. You can give thanks. You can surrender something that's been weighing on you, and then you let go. You trust that the work will be done while you rest. But perhaps the most potent tool in mastering your sleep for conscious growth is dream work. Your dreams are not random, they are reflections, messengers, and portals. Each dream carries information uniquely tailored to your evolution. Some come as emotional releases, others come as visions, symbols, or initiations. And when you learn to decode them, you begin to receive guidance far more personal and profound than anything you could seek externally. To do this, you must begin with remembering. Keep a dream journal by your bed. The moment you wake, even if it's just a fragment, write it down. Over time, you will notice themes, recurring symbols, or patterns that mirror your waking life. The act of writing anchors the dream in your waking consciousness. It says to your subconscious, "I'm listening," and when you listen, the dreams become louder, clearer, more potent. You may begin to receive solutions to problems you couldn't solve by logic. You may find suppressed emotions rising to the surface in metaphorical form. Or you may discover dreamscapes that feel so real, so rich with detail and presence, that you know deep down they are more than just imagination. These are not just internal landscapes. They are vibrational dimensions accessed through the gateway of sleep. Lucid dreaming becomes a natural evolution of this practice. As your awareness grows stronger during sleep, you may begin to wake up inside your dreams. You'll recognize the dream state as it's happening, giving you the power to shape, explore, and interact with your inner world consciously. Lucid dreams are not just for adventure, they are for healing. You can ask to meet your higher self. You can step into conversations with inner child aspects. You can revisit painful memories and rewrite the emotional imprint. You can fly, transform, dissolve, and in doing so, awaken parts of your soul that were sleeping even in your waking hours. But lucid dreaming is only one form of conscious sleep work. You can also use dream incubation, a technique where you program your mind to dream about a particular issue or theme. Before sleep, you focus on a question or request. You repeat it aloud or silently. You visualize yourself receiving the answer in your dreams. This technique has been used for centuries by mystics, healers, and sages. It works not by force, but by invitation. Your subconscious mind begins to organize its energy around the question. And often, what arises is not a direct answer, but an experience, something that teaches you through emotion, symbol, or story. Sleep also opens the doorway to spontaneous spiritual phenomena. Many people report encounters during sleep with loved ones who have passed, with light beings, or with archetypal figures who offer deep peace and insight. These encounters feel different than ordinary dreams. They carry a frequency that stays with you. You wake up changed. You remember their eyes, their words, their presence. Whether you see these beings as internal parts of your psyche or external intelligences, the impact is the same. They awaken you to the truth that you are not alone, that you are guided, that the dream realm is filled with loving intelligence ready to meet you. Another vital component of sleep for conscious growth is energetic repair. During waking life, you accumulate psychic debris, fragments of energy from others, from screens, from environments that are out of alignment. Sleep is the body's and soul's opportunity to release that static. In deep, non-REM sleep, your parasympathetic nervous system activates, your aura relaxes, and your system begins to discharge stress. But if your sleep is restless, interrupted, or shallow, this process can't complete. Over time, spiritual fatigue builds. You feel disconnected, irritable, uninspired. That's why sleep hygiene is not just about falling asleep, it's about staying asleep deeply enough for healing to occur. To support this, consider aligning your sleep schedule with natural rhythms. Your body is wired to sync with light and darkness. The hours between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. are especially powerful for physical and energetic repair. Getting into bed before midnight, minimizing screen exposure, and honoring the wind-down process can dramatically improve the quality of your sleep. This, in turn, improves the clarity of your dreams, your emotional resilience, and your spiritual sensitivity. You begin to move through the world less like a reactor, and more like a creator, because your inner reservoir is full. And then there's the simple but sacred act of surrender. When you sleep, you are letting go of control, of identity, of narrative. You are trusting the unknown to hold you. This act of surrender is not passive, it is deeply courageous. It is an act of spiritual faith. Each night, you rehearse your own death and your own rebirth. You dissolve into the darkness and awaken into light. You learn, over and over again, that there is wisdom in letting go, that you don't have to figure everything out, that some truths arrive not when you seek them, but when you stop seeking. Mastering your sleep is not about perfection, it's about reverence, about treating each night not as a break from life, but as an extension of your sacred path. When you approach sleep with intention, when you listen to your dreams, when you honor your rest as holy, you begin to change. Your days become more grounded, your emotions more balanced, your insights more frequent. You make decisions from clarity, not confusion. You trust your intuition without second guessing. You begin to walk through the world like someone who is deeply resourced, because you are. Because each night, you're being filled up from the inside. So tonight, don't just sleep. Prepare yourself to receive. Create a space that reflects your worth. Choose your last thoughts wisely. They will echo into your dreams. Ask for guidance. Trust what comes. And in the morning, don't rush away from what you've seen. Sit, reflect, remember, write, because you are not just dreaming, you are learning, you are healing. You are evolving, one night at a time. And as you deepen this practice, something remarkable happens. You begin to carry the energy of your dreams into your waking life. You begin to live from a more centered, more attuned, more luminous place. You start to notice signs, synchronicities, moments of grace you used to miss. You begin to remember that your life is not separate from your soul, that even the act of sleeping can become a path to awakening. And in that remembrance, you find something priceless, the ability to walk through your day with the same wisdom, presence, and magic that visits you at night. You become not just a dreamer, but a dreamwalker, not just a sleeper, but a soul in motion. And through the sacred mastery of your sleep, you rise, not just in the morning, but in consciousness, again and again. At some point along your spiritual journey, you begin to ask a question that feels almost too vast, too strange to answer. What if waking life is just another form of dreaming? What if everything you think is solid, fixed, and certain, your routines, your identity, your surroundings, is actually just as fluid, malleable, and symbolic as the dreams you drift through at night? This question doesn't arise from intellectual curiosity alone. It comes from experience, subtle and profound moments when the boundary between sleep and waking begins to blur. When the symbols from your dreams appear in your daily life. When the choices you make during the day feel like echoes of nighttime lessons. When you start to remember something not taught, but felt, that reality is more flexible, more responsive, and more magical than you were ever taught to believe. What happens when you awaken from sleep is often seen as a return to real life. But what if it's the other way around? What if your dreams show you what's real, and waking life is the performance, the projection, the temporary play? When you understand this, sleep no longer feels like an escape, it becomes a mirror, one that reflects your deeper truths back at you with symbols, emotions, and metaphors too pure to be filtered by the conscious mind. And as you begin to integrate the wisdom of your dreams into your waking life, something beautiful occurs. Your daytime reality begins to change, not because you force it, but because you begin to change. Each night, your consciousness dissolves its attachment to identity. It detaches from your name, your job, your beliefs, and slips into a state where none of that defines you. In dreams, you don't need to know how things happen. They simply unfold. You trust the flow. You act on impulse. You feel more than you think. This dreamlike way of being is not something to discard when the sun rises. It is something to remember, to carry with you into the day, because your waking life is not nearly as solid as it appears. Everything you experience is filtered through perception, expectation, and emotion. Reality bends to your beliefs. It mirrors your state of consciousness, just like in a dream. When you realize this, you stop treating dreams as mere fantasies. You begin to see them as your internal compass, direct messages from the universe, from your higher self, from the unconscious energies that shape your life in ways you often can't see. And those messages, when understood and honored, become the bridge between your sleeping self and your waking self. The veil lifts, and suddenly your life begins to feel more cohesive, more meaningful. You realize that the insights you gain while asleep were never meant to stay hidden in journals or in forgotten memories. They are meant to guide you, to reveal your blind spots, to initiate healing and awaken you to higher states of awareness, even with your eyes open. Dream integration is not about decoding dreams like puzzles. It's about feeling into them, asking yourself, what emotion did that dream leave me with? What truth was trying to surface? What part of me was asking to be seen? Sometimes the message is gentle, other times it's loud. A recurring nightmare may point to an unresolved wound. A flying dream may reveal that you're ready to step into freedom. A dream where you speak with someone whose past may carry a healing you didn't know you needed. These are not just interesting stories, they are sacred whispers. When you honor them, they begin to rewire your waking life. You might find yourself responding to situations differently, not because you read a book or followed advice, but because your dreams prepared you. Your subconscious rehearsed the moment. Your soul chose a new path, and when it happens in waking life, you feel it. Something clicks, you pause before reacting, you choose compassion over defense, you create instead of repeat. It feels like déjà vu, but deeper. You remember your soul already lived it in the dream, and now your body catches up. And this is where true spiritual awakening begins, not in a distant temple or on a mountaintop, but in the quiet integration of your inner and outer worlds. When you realize that every conversation, every challenge, every coincidence carries the same symbolic weight as your dreams, life becomes enchanted. You stop living in autopilot. You become aware. You notice patterns, numbers, phrases, colors, threads of meaning that link the night to the day. And instead of waiting for sleep to reconnect with the divine, you carry the thread of divinity into your morning coffee, your work meetings, your relationships. Every moment becomes a message. Every obstacle, an initiation. Every joy, a reflection of your own inner alignment. Waking up becomes less about getting out of bed, and more about returning to truth. You begin to question your assumptions. You observe your thoughts the way you observe characters in a dream. You witness how your beliefs shape your reality. And in doing so, you claim your power as a conscious creator, not by controlling, but by participating in the unfolding dream that is your life. The veil between sleeping and waking thins. You remember that both are states of consciousness. And consciousness is not fixed, it is a river, a spiral, a dance between dimensions. The more aware you become in sleep, the more aware you become in waking. The more lucid your dreams, the more lucid your life. Lucid living means you no longer accept things at face value. You see through the illusion of separation, of limitation, of lack. You recognize the ego's tricks, the societal scripts, the fear-based narratives, and you choose differently, not out of rebellion, but out of remembrance. You remember you are not just a body with a brain, you are awareness itself, timeless, formless, infinite, and just as you can fly in your dreams when you realize you can, you begin to fly in life. Not with wings, but with intention, with presence, with joy. This level of awakening doesn't come all at once, it deepens over time. It requires stillness, reflection, and devotion. It asks you to honor your inner life as much as your outer goals. To trust what you feel over what you've been told. To listen to the voice that speaks not in words, but in knowing. And often, that voice comes through clearest in sleep. Because in sleep, you are undefended, open, unfiltered. You are closest to source. So don't underestimate what happens when you close your eyes. Don't rush past your dreams. Don't dismiss the feeling you wake up with, the image you can't forget, the words that repeat in your mind. They are sacred. They are the clues that lead you home. The more you honor them, the more your waking life transforms, not because you've escaped the world, but because you've finally seen it. Not as something outside of you, but as a living mirror of your own expanding awareness. You begin to live with reverence, to move through your day with the same curiosity, presence, and wonder that you feel in your dreams. You smile at synchronicities, you breathe through challenges. You see beauty in ordinary places, and in that state, you become something rare, awake within the illusion. Not trapped by it, not afraid of it, but aware that it is a dream you're dreaming, and therefore a dream you can shape. This is the gift sleep offers you every night. Not just rest, but realization. Not just escape, but expansion. If you let it, sleep becomes your greatest teacher, your quiet oracle. Your reminder that awakening isn't about leaving this world, it's about seeing it clearly, living it fully, and remembering who you are in every state of consciousness, both asleep and awake. Consciousness is not something you have, it is what you are. It is not confined to your waking mind or your sleeping dreams. It is the eternal thread running through every breath, every thought, every plane of existence you touch. To understand consciousness is to understand yourself beyond identity, beyond memory, beyond even perception. Sleep gives you glimpses into that truth, not by turning off your mind, but by revealing what remains when the ego rests. You've experienced this countless times, whether you've realized it or not. That moment just before sleep takes you, when your thoughts begin to dissolve, and something quieter emerges. That space in the morning when you wake, and for a brief second, don't remember who you are, where you are, or what your life holds, and yet you exist. These are the cracks in the illusion. The places where the mask slips, and something eternal peers through. In those spaces, you begin to realize, consciousness never truly sleeps. Your awareness is not bound by your physical body or your thinking mind. Even when you are unconscious to this world, you are alive and alert in another. Even in the deepest stages of sleep, when your body is motionless and your brainwaves slow to their lowest frequency, a part of you remains, watching, remembering, being. This is the part of you that travels, that dreams, that communes with realms beyond space and time. And once you begin to sense that, you can never return to the old belief that you are a body with a soul somewhere inside. You begin to see that you are a field of consciousness, infinite in scope, wearing the temporary costume of a human life. Sleep serves as the greatest spiritual metaphor, because it mirrors the very cycle of existence itself. You go to sleep, forgetting who you are. You awaken, remembering your name, your story, your place in the world. In between, you may dream, you may wander, you may experience other realities entirely. Life is no different. You are born, forgetting your soul's origin. You live, building an identity and collecting experiences. Then, one day, you leave this form and return, not into nothingness, but into the boundless presence you've always been. And if sleep is the nightly rehearsal of that cycle, then what is death but a longer sleep, and what is awakening but the realization that you were never truly separate from anything? There are moments during sleep when your consciousness touches the infinite. times when you feel yourself floating in a vast expanse, neither body nor thought, just awareness. You may call it deep sleep. Some mystics call it the void, others call it source. Whatever name you give it, you know it when you feel it. The silence behind all sound, the stillness behind all movement, the presence behind your very existence. It is not an experience you can explain. It is something you remember in your bones, something ancient, something pure, and sleep is often the only place your mind allows you to touch it, because the mind is not in control there. The filters are down, the portal is open. If you've ever awoken from sleep with tears on your face and no idea why, you've brushed against that place. If you've ever had a dream so peaceful, so luminous, that waking up felt like falling back into heaviness, you've glimpsed it. This is not just rest, it is reunion with the part of you that never left, but that the world trained you to forget. The truth is, sleep is not an escape from consciousness. It is the doorway into the parts of consciousness that daily life keeps hidden. The more you approach sleep with reverence, the more these doorways begin to reveal themselves. And with them, a deeper truth unfolds. That you are not your thoughts, your emotions, or even your dreams. You are the one experiencing them all, the witness, the dreamer behind the dream. When you close your eyes at night, you are not shutting down. You are returning to yourself, to the vast intelligence that breathes you, to the quiet ocean of being that pulses beneath every experience. And when you begin to feel that return, when you begin to consciously journey through that inner terrain, sleep transforms from unconscious habit into spiritual practice. It becomes your teacher, your healer, your oracle. Each night, you dissolve into mystery, and each morning, you rise from it. Not because you've ended anything, but because you've touched eternity and come back changed. The deeper truth is this: consciousness is not limited by time. It does not begin when you wake or end when you sleep. It flows continuously, like a river, shifting only its expression. And, as you begin to observe it more clearly, you see that even waking life is just another dream, a shared one, yes, but a dream nonetheless. Your thoughts shape your experience. Your beliefs bend your reality. Your expectations pull certain versions of the world into focus. Just like in a dream, you are both the creator and the experiencer. And the more conscious you become of this, the more lucid your life becomes. Lucid living is not about controlling every outcome. It is about realizing that you are not at the mercy of the story. You are the awareness behind it. You are the one who can pause, breathe, choose differently. You are the one who can witness thoughts without becoming them, feel emotions without being consumed by them, experience pain without being defined by it. This is the true awakening, not the escape from life, but the full embrace of it through the lens of consciousness. And this awakening is seeded, night after night, in the soil of your sleep, because in sleep you remember your essence. You shed the layers of identity and return to source. And each time you do, you bring a little more of that remembrance back into your waking hours. You become softer, wiser, more aligned. You stop searching for meaning in things, and start feeling the meaning in everything. You don't just live life, you live through it, with your eyes open and your heart listening. Many spiritual traditions speak of a final awakening, one where you no longer identify with the body, with the story, with the dream. Where you live from the realization that all form is temporary, but awareness is eternal. And while this awakening can feel distant or lofty, sleep gives you a taste of it every single night. The challenge is not accessing that truth, it's remembering it, trusting it, living it. Because the veil that seems to separate waking from dreaming, the physical from the spiritual, the self from the infinite, that veil is paper thin, and your consciousness is the wind that moves through it. So, what does it mean to live beyond sleep? It means understanding that sleep is not the absence of awareness, but the expansion of it, that dreams are not distractions, but revelations. That rest is not weakness, but wisdom. It means carrying the softness, the surrender, the stillness of sleep into your day. It means living as if every moment is sacred, because it is. It means walking through life with the same grace you feel when your soul floats free in dreams. It means awakening, not just once, but over and over again, until every breath reminds you of your true nature. And your true nature is this: you are boundless, you are luminous, you are not limited to this body or this lifetime, you are not confined by time or space or circumstance. You are the consciousness that dreams universes into being. You are the awareness that holds galaxies in silence. You are the still point at the center of it all. And every night, when your eyes close and your mind quiets, you return to that place. You reunite with the infinite. You dissolve into truth. What sleep teaches you, if you're willing to listen, is that you've never been lost. You've only been dreaming. And the moment you remember that, everything changes. You begin to live with purpose, not because you're chasing something, but because you're remembering everything. You begin to serve, not from obligation, but from overflow. You begin to love, not from fear, but from the deep knowing that everything, every face, every moment, every breath, is part of the same dream you are now waking up inside. So tonight, when you lie down to rest, close your eyes with reverence. You're not shutting the world out. You're turning inward to the realm where truth whispers. Trust that your spirit knows the way. That your consciousness never sleeps. That you are always held, always guided, always awakening, even in the deepest darkness. Let sleep take you, not into unconsciousness, but into the boundless field of light that has always been your home. And when you wake, carry that light with you. Let it move through your words, your choices, your presence. Because you are not just here to exist, you are here to remember, to embody, to awaken, and the journey never ends. Because you, dear soul, are not just a dreamer. You are the dream, and the dreamer, and the space in which it all unfolds. Limitless, eternal, awake.